it's time we stop shocking employees, because that doesn't work, period. Doesn't work long-term. There's empirical evidence it doesn't work at all. And recognize that positive reinforcement is a basic foundational psychological theory that works to change behaviors.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Welcome to another episode of Biz Help for You. If you're an entrepreneur trying to build a stronger, more security-conscious team, this episode is a game changer. My guest, Craig Taylor, co-founder of CyberHoot and a 30-year cybersecurity veteran, will introduce you to a radically effective twist on employee training: positive phish testing. You'll learn how rewarding smart behavior instead of punishing mistakes can transform your team's engagement, strengthen your defenses, and create a culture of cyber awareness. Whether you're a solopreneur or leading a growing team, this conversation will leave you with practical, low-cost strategies to boost your cyber resilience starting today. So Craig, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Candy. I'm excited to be here. And I think my job is done. You just did an exact, perfect introduction.
Except now we need to go and do a deeper dive into like what we're actually talking about, which that actually leads me right into my first question is, what exactly is positive phish testing and how does it differ from traditional, more punitive phishing simulations?
In a word, we find in cybersecurity an industry that's focused on punishing bad behaviors to reduce clicks. For the last 25 years, there's lots and lots of evidence that the number one way companies are breached is when an employee clicks on a phishing email link they shouldn't. And that can lead to a whole host of problems. They can lose access to their email. They might land on a web page that's a fake website that will steal their credentials. There's all sorts of other things, malware injection and things of that nature that can happen. So the industry has said, we've got to stop this. But they've taken a very non-psychological background approach to it and said, we're going to punish those behaviors to reduce them or eliminate them. And it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And psychology theory for the last 80 years has proven if you want to encourage good behaviors, if you want to encourage a behavior change that is long lasting, you have to provide a reward mechanism that might initially be external to the employee or to the person, but ultimately becomes an internal locus of control or intrinsic within an employee or a person. And that's what we focused on in CyberHoot, is we've tried to adopt gamification and multiple rewards for employees doing their phishing simulation where we prevent them from failing, right? There's no opportunity to fail here. Every opportunity to succeed and to build a rubric for how you can identify the 6 or 7 parts of an email that tell you if you're under attack or not. And so by doing that and practicing it over and over, we create lasting behavior change in the companies adopting us, whether it's a small solopreneur or international, enterprise organization with thousands of employees. What's best of all is the metrics are better. You get a compliance score and training effect on every single employee. Whereas when you send the old punishment focus, it's a fake email to the inbox. You only get a metric on those people that click on the email to open it. And from those people, you get a fail or a pass. If they don't click on the links inside the email, they pass. But if they click the links and perhaps enter credentials, they fail. That only represents half your employees. Half the users aren't opening that email at all. So there's no metric for them. It's a technical limitation. On top of that, we boost morale. We actually find that 70 to 80% of the users taking our phishing simulations actually give us a thumbs up on the test, which is interesting in and of itself because you compare that to 0% that like the fake email phish test. So you can look like a hero at your company by providing morale boosting cyber literacy training, and it works over the long term, which is quite amazing.
Well, and I was thinking while you're talking too, obviously no one even wants to make mistakes and click on something they shouldn't,
Right.
but
Right.
things are becoming more sophisticated, or you get things in so many different ways too. It maybe is an email that says, "Hey, I've sent you, this attached document," or,
Mhm.
maybe they're texting something that says, you have a balance due on this thing. And, I try to put the message out there all the time too, like government agencies are not going to text you, right? Or things like
Right.
that. They're going to send you a letter. There's not going to be like, hurry up and pay now and click this link and then email, because that's not how they operate. But there's so
Right.
many others out there. So I think too, just keeping up with all of the changes and trying to make sure your staff is aware is probably overwhelming to the entrepreneur as it is. And they're obviously nervous. Like, we don't want to have anything happen where our, sensitive data is being hacked, or someone gets our credit card information. I mean, there's so much to keep track of that. Just, I think the process overall is overwhelming, but if you can do that
Mhm.
positive spin like you're doing and have it be fun in a game, like I could see where that would be so much more, like, for the staff, even like encouraging, yes, I'm on the right track. Maybe
Right.
I made a little mistake, but at least I am doing my best to learn. So I love that
Right.
you have this positive reinforcement. So
Yeah.
how is it that even works? Like, can you talk about how turning it into something where it's not like, oops, you clicked on this email, but it
Mhm.
is, hey, we're giving you positive reinforcement. We're giving you these examples. I guess, can you go a little more into detail on how that is set up and how it actually helps educate the employee?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Interestingly enough, when we set out to try to build our company, we did start with the fake email approach. We ran into so many problems and we were unhappy with the results and the metrics and the outcome that we asked ourselves this kind of pivotal shift. Couldn't we do this a better way? And that's when we seized upon, the classroom environment. If you think about how you learn, say, if you go into a classroom environment, the teacher gets up at the front of the class and teaches you the material, and then at the middle or end of the semester, it gives you your exam to measure if you've learned the material. That was the approach we took. And it's not the approach of the industry. The industry sends you these fake email phishing tests without having properly trained you in a
Mhm.
interactive way. They might send you emails or videos that say, beware of phishing, don't click on links, it's all bad. But without actually going through and teaching you the rubric of what to look for on a sender email address, or why hackers like to use urgency and emotionality to get you to react to something. Because if we react, we make more mistakes. If we respond
Mm.
thoughtfully and give it a pause and think about it for a moment, then we're going to say, this really doesn't make sense. Why would I get an invoice from someone that never invoices me? And why should I open
Right.
this, DHL delivery notification when I didn't order
Mhm.
a package? Right? There's a lot of these things that are meant to get you a knee jerk reaction and click, and then trouble ensues. So what we do is we don't trick you at all. And by the way, everything I'm about to describe, from the videos that we send out once a month and the phishing simulations we send out quarterly in our default program, it's 100% automatic. So anybody listening to this who's maybe overwhelmed, as you noted earlier, about how to go about this, it's 100% scripted for you. There's no
Mhm.
guesswork. There's no picking and choosing. There's not even infrastructure changes you have to make to punch holes in your spam filter to deliver our assignments, because there's nothing fake email phishing about them that would trigger an alert and block the email from delivery to your staff. So everything I'm describing here is 100% automated. All you do is enroll, tie into Entra ID or Google Workspace for your users, and you're good to go, or upload them manually.
Mhm.
So we send an
Mhm.
email that says, Candy, it's time for your quarterly fish. This is a test, but don't worry, it's an open book test. And what you have to do is look at the 6 or 7 pieces of the phishing puzzle we present with a wizard that drives you through the email. It says, okay, let's start with the sender and let's look at this. Is this safe or suspicious? And we have an open book test. So if you aren't sure what to look for, we tell you, well, hackers can't email you from this particular case, Netflix. They have to
Mhm.
email you from a different domain name. And what they'll do is they'll change a single letter in the domain name netflix.com. They'll drop an I, or they'll add a period in the wrong place, or they'll turn an L into a 1. All of these are very
Mhm.
subtle changes that a hacker can get away with for a short period of time. Their domain will be taken down in a week or two, but by then they've done all the damage. They've compromised you or your colleagues. And so what you have to do is look very, very carefully at that domain name to see if it's exactly what it should be. And then based on that instruction, you would mark that safe or unsafe based on what you found. Then it moves you through the email. The subjects are almost impossible to know if you're under attack, but there are giveaways, spelling mistakes, artificial urgency, something too good to be true. All of those can give you a suspicion that something's amiss here, and you would mark it suspicious. In the absence of anything else saying it is safe, it's probably suspicious, mark it so. Then we go to greeting, then spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Each of the time we're highlighting a section of this email, this simulated email on our website. Again, this is not an email in your inbox. It's on a website, which means we avoid triggering spam filters. We don't have any manual interventions to deliver this. You're simply getting an assignment in your inbox that gets through, 99 out of 100 times. Next is urgency and emotionality, then external links within the website. We talk about bit.ly links, or basically when you shorten a URL into a bit.ly domain name, it's meant to be a tool, but it's well loved by hackers, so we don't trust those. And finally, attachments. So as we teach this rubric of the 6 or 7 components of an email, and you go through and label them safe or unsafe, we sum it all up and you pass the test. Presumably, because if you're not sure, you can get help in real time. But let's say you choose incorrectly 2 out of 3 out of the 7 times, and you have to retake it immediately. You can also then check your answers, and it'll say, you said this Netflix.com domain was safe, but there's an I missing. And that's, again, what we were talking about. You thought it was the exact correct domain, and you missed that we had dropped the I. So we're very specific in teaching you where your mistake was, and then we'll send you the same phishing simulation again. However, we will change all the answers again. So we'll pick different responses out of the database. Netflix might have the I the second time through, but the urgency and emotionality might be suspicious, right? So you're going to have to repick and re-choose. It's not just record your answers that you make and then change them. And so that's how we go through. And on top of all of that, what happens when you pass the test? At the end of this, because you've had, basically spoon-fed some of the information around your rubric and what you need to remember for email and how to basically teach you how to phish, you'll pass that test with 1 or 2 attempts. We see it, 99% of the time. But then we reward you with passing a test, not failing it, right? Remember, the other alternative is to click on a link you shouldn't, and boom, you're failed, and now you go watch 45 minutes of video. Instead, we give you a certificate of completion with your name and lights, and continuing education credits are built into that certificate, 15 minutes per assignment. So if you have 10 hours a year of ongoing education, we'll give you 4 of them right off the bat from our 16 assignments throughout the year. We give you an avatar that starts off as this baby hatchling, which is a cute little owl in a nest. But over time, as you complete assignments, if you do them on time, and if you get more high scoring in them, your avatar will grow in maturity. And it represents, your burgeoning cyber literacy, which is amazing. And people love that. In fact, they email support asking why their colleague is a little bit ahead of them. And we go and research it and find out, well, you were late doing your assignments and you didn't get perfect scores like your colleague. So you're not getting as many points. And so you're going to be behind by a little bit, which itself encourages interaction. It encourages consistent performance. It's like going to the gym and getting intrinsically rewarded to go to the gym to stay in shape by the trainer, the personal trainer who says, "You're doing great, Candy. Well done. Let's come back on Tuesday." So it's self-fulfilling, this positive reinforcement, and it becomes ingrained within the person, right? This is not something imposed by my company, and if I don't do this, I could be punished. It's rewards and benefits and wonderful experiences and learning this rubric that you need to know personally and professionally, so you're benefiting both at home and at work. But at the end of the day, it becomes internalized, which is the psychological phenomenon behind the scenes. Punishment is an extrinsic reward, meaning it's imposed from outside, And as soon as you remove the punishment, or even if in the threat of a punishment, people still will click on links. But on the educational positive reinforcement schedule, psychology says that becomes intrinsic motivation inside the person. They value the skills they've learned because they've been rewarded. They apply them both personally and professionally. And at the end of the day, they just change their behaviors, and the culture becomes one of cyber literacy. People talk at the water cooler. Hey, did you see that crazy Netflix phishing attack that came in? I saw it, and it was missing the I and the L or whatever. And people start talking about it with pride, that their ability to spot these things and avoid them. That's the reward.
To know, like, obviously team members come in at different times. I mean, hopefully you have long-term employees, but there's, depending on the business, someone could have been there for 5 years and someone could just be starting. And,
Right.
Do you have like where this is on a schedule for everyone at the same time? Or is it, well, I have a new employee and they need to learn like what to look for. And so within the first few weeks of them being hiring, they're doing something like, how does that schedule work if someone wants to continue, like showing this to their staff on a whatever schedule that might be, but you've got people coming and going at different times?
Sure. So we have the idea that there's a foundational set of knowledge you need to learn, and that's communicated through our first 6 videos. And any new employee has to complete those 6 videos before they move on to the annual program that we produce each year. That annual program is 12 videos, 3 to 5 minutes apiece, on the emerging threats we're seeing out there in the world over the last 12 to 18 months. So something you might have received recently is a toll violation SMS text. That's a smishing attack. Almost everyone I talk to has gotten 2 or 3 of them. We've added a smishing video into our training program this year to alert people to that fact. But it's also covered in our social engineering video in the front 6 that we send to every employee who starts. Once they get through those 6, they move right into the current video that is part of the annual program. If they miss the smishing video, it will be covered in the future because we're repeating the concepts across years and timeframes. On the phishing simulation, though, the one that's the positive reinforcement, that can be taught really in a single sitting at the Hootfish when you go through your Hootfish phishing simulation. People get it pretty quickly. We find that people take maybe 2 to 3 minutes to do the first one, and then that drops to 30 seconds on the second, third, and subsequent ones. We're only assigning 4 of those a year by default, but any new employee will have to do 1 Hootfish and the 6 videos at their enrollment in the platform. And then they're caught up with the foundational knowledge, the 101 of cyber literacy skills, and they move on with all the rest of the staff. But you mentioned something else. What if someone takes, a break, has to do jury duty for 3 months, or maternity leave for 6 months, or sabbatical for a year? You can archive them for that time frame, and when they come back, they have to get caught up with 1 of the previous videos from the annual program and 1 of the previous Hootfish from the current program. So it's really just 2 assignments that they get caught up on, and off they go with the rest of the team. So we keep everybody kind of in sync that way pretty clearly. It seems to work really well, right? We found this really nice balance because it was a concern, and it took a few adjustments over the course of 10 years to get it just right.
Well, and everyone has different personalities, right? And some people, have just even internal, like I said, for themselves, just having like their internal pat on the back, almost like, yeah, I did something, where someone needs external praise, or, there's different people who need things differently too. So how do you find like having this, even though you're talking about rewarding good behavior instead of punishing bad, like how do you look at the fact that people have different personality types and want to be rewarded in different ways, and take that into consideration for your program?
It's a lot simpler than that. You're not wrong, Candy. I agree with you that some people learn in different ways. We do try to provide multimodal learning. So some people would read through the instructions. We provide a video to show people how to do the Hootfish in a video if they don't want to read the instructions. My dad taught me how to change the oil in my car by doing it with me instead of handing me the manual, right? And so everybody learns differently. We compare in our videos, the video plus the audio. Some people learn by listening to podcasts like we are doing here today. So we give that multimodal learning. But in terms of incentives, it can be really boiled down to some basic psychological theory. And I think it would be helpful just to use a dog analogy briefly. You can train a dog with a shock collar to stop barking or with treats to stop barking. And what will work over time is the treat or the food-based approach. As soon as the shock collar loses battery, that dog's going to start barking. The dog might see a stranger at the front door, is going to bark whether he gets shocked or not. Employees are very similar. If you have a punishment-based approach to teaching them how to fish, then they're going to still click on a phishing email that's really appealing to them personally, even in the threat of a punishment approach. No different than if there's a rabbit across the road and you've got your shock collar on your dog. The dog's going to think, I could get shocked, but I could get that rabbit. And he'll go after the rabbit. My neighbor's dog did that the other day. But when you do treats at the dog park with that dog and the dog's tail is wagging, no different than I think Hurricane was a dog that won America's Got Talent with his trainer on stage above all the other acts in a whole season of America's Got Talent, because the trainer was handing the dog treats and had the dog walking on his back legs and doing these magical tricks, all through the power of positive reinforcement. And everyone enjoyed it. The dog enjoyed it. The trainer enjoyed it. The audience enjoyed it. And they won the entire thing. It's time we stop shocking employees, because that doesn't work, period. Doesn't work long-term. There's empirical evidence it doesn't work at all. And recognize that positive reinforcement is a basic foundational psychological theory that works to change behaviors. Whether you want treat-based behaviors or if you want just removing the negative stimulus is a negative reinforcement, right? The fact that you're not doing fake email fish testing is actually a reinforcement for enjoying the positive reinforcement phishing. Like, this is so much better than when I got fake emails. So I think you're right to wonder if there's not better rewards, and we're constantly searching for other ways to reward people. We now are talking about having your avatar be downloadable, so you can post it to your LinkedIn account or your Facebook account or your social account, so that you can wear it with pride, kind of thing, about your cyber literacy adventure and how far you've come. Those are another way that we thought we could reward people.
So I'm thinking that business owners might be listening to this and saying, well, this sounds like it would be great, to train my staff, but I'm afraid of how much it's going to cost me, especially as a small business owner. So what is the type of budget that they might be looking at to be able to have this ongoing training for their staff?
Well, it's less than a cup of coffee a month, right? If you said, I'm going to buy coffee every Monday for my staff, you'd be paying 4 or 5 times the amount it costs you to train your employee. We're really economical. $60 for 15 users a month is the minimum starting point for most businesses, and includes 15 users. But we go down from there. If you're a nonprofit, we give 50% off. If you're a charity or a government entity or an educational institution, we have some discounts there. And as you scale up, if you have 1,000 employees, we're going to drop that price dramatically, much, much lower. It's really quite economical, especially in the face of the consequences of not doing it. Did you know, for example, Candy, the third largest economy in the world last year was cybercrime? Number one was the United States with whatever trillions of dollars of revenue and generated in income and profitability, then China, then cybercrime, ahead of Germany and India, who are the third and fourth largest economies of the world. So there's an enormous amount of money being made through ransomware, business email compromise, wire fraud. And teaching these skill sets to people is not taught in our educational systems today. I can tell you we are partnered with many, many school districts across the world to teach their administrators, their teachers, and their coaches, their school bus drivers, cyber literacy skills, because they all have to manage their schedules via email, and they might click on things and introduce ransomware into the school district, but they've not yet chosen to educate students on cyber literacy. They've just got so many demands. They got to teach financial literacy, reading literacy, computer literacy. Cyber literacy is not on the top of the list, although it should be in my case. In a perfect world, we would add that. but we have to assume anybody coming to work for us as small entrepreneurs haven't got any cyber literacy training. And, I like to use examples. 10 years ago, before I founded CyberHoot, one of our founding stories was I had to fix this problem. Someone new went to work for a company, put it on social media. They got an email the first day on the job from the president of the company and said, go buy gift cards. And that person over the course of 2 weeks went out and bought, what you can't see is $24,000 of gift cards in my hand, $100 gift cards spent before this game or this cyber attack was identified and stopped, simply because of a tiny little bit of knowledge that, hey, this email came from outside your organization. Your president would never email you from a domain outside the organization. You should have known that. And secondly, when you put yourself out on social media, people use that to target you with very believable campaigns. And I could go on. There's a laundry list of telltale signs that this was a bad idea, but no one spent the time to teach that poor person how to identify and prevent that. And there you have it. $25,000 later, it's a damage done,
Right. Well, and definitely things are getting more and more sophisticated. Like I know I've seen before, it would be obvious, like spelling errors and all of those things too in emails, but now a lot of things, like I said, maybe one letter in a domain is changed or something. And unless someone's really looking, they're not paying attention. Or like I said, maybe somehow someone got the name of, a leader in the company and sends an email saying, please do this, and the employee doesn't question it. It just seems there's a lot more sophistication. So like, do your training videos get updated, along with all of these new things that are coming out and, trying to keep as up to date as possible? Or how do employees, basically stay up to date with all of the changes that are going on and, it's less obvious?
That's our job at CyberHoot to do that. We produce a new set of 12 videos every year. They reflect on the types of attacks we're seeing firsthand, because we also have a consulting arm that does virtual CISO work, or Chief Information Security Officer, for about 50 companies around the world. And we see the attacks they have. And we know the kinds of attacks that are successful. We read the literature, Verizon Data Breach Report every year. Phishing has always been number one. Poor password hygiene is number two. Those are always covered in new videos we produce each year, but then we add to them. For example, we did the smishing attack this year because of all of the text messages people are getting about unpaid toll violations. And we added a phishing video, QR code video on, when you go to pay for parking in a downtown location, if there's a sticker on the parking instructions on how to pay, you better be careful, because that could be a hacker sticker and they're stealing your money. When you think you've paid for parking, you come back to a fine on your windshield. So we cover those things on an ongoing basis. Every year we produce a new set of 12 videos that are short, exactly what you need to stay on top of cyber literacy skills as an employee. It's kind of like HIT training. Have you ever heard of that? High intensity interval training. You don't have to work out a long time to get the benefit, the heart benefit, the cardiovascular benefit in a gym. You can do 5 minutes, 5 times a week or 3 times a week and get really good physical benefits to your cardiovascular system. We do the same thing and the same perspective in cyber literacy training. 3 to 5 minutes a month is sufficient to keep you aware of the emerging threats. And that's what we do. We also blog weekly, and we have a newsletter that goes out monthly. So there's lots of additional information people can get from our CyberHoot website at any time. But those are the minimum essential things that we do to keep you safe.
Well, I know this has been an interesting topic. I've never heard of this positive phishing, before, and training your employees through gamification and, letting them have fun through this process too. So I appreciate, your sharing that with me today, but I know we're coming to the end of the time we have together. So I wanted to ask, do you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners? And if someone is interested in learning more, how can they contact you?
Well, 2 great things. So if you sign up at any time at cyberhoot.com/businesses, you'll be able to register with a referral code. And if you put in affordable bookkeeping, in honor of you, Candy, you'll get 20% off the cost of services for life. It's not a time sensitive thing. Anytime you want to sign up, you'll get that. So that's, first of all, 20% off for life. Secondly, you can always email us for a demo at sales@cyberhoot.com. We'd happily meet with you, review the platform. We even do free onboarding. If you do sign up, it's white glove onboarding. So there's really no stress involved at all. You don't have to learn a new interface. Fortunately, we've built a very simple kind of intuitive interface for this so that it isn't difficult to support. It really runs itself largely. So all of the frustration, the fear, anxiety, we've tried to remove, not just from the learning experience, but from the deployment and the care and feeding and administration perspective. Yeah, and so that's your discount code for listeners of Affordable Bookkeeping and how you can reach us.
Perfect. Well, again, thanks so much for being a guest on my show. I really enjoyed the conversation and learning about this. And, like I said, it's a topic I haven't really discussed before, and I'm sure it's something new to the listeners as well. So thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Katie. Thank you for the opportunity.
And to the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.